4 in 10 people believe in ghosts. Over a third of people believe intelligent life exists outside of Earth. 43% of people believe demons exist. There are unexplained phenomena happening daily around the globe, and we are here to talk about it. Your portal into UFOs, paranormal, cryptids, the supernatural, the mysterious, the unknown. I see you. This is Beyond the Radar, and this is your host, Humanoid Tom Conway.
All right. Welcome, everyone, back to another episode of Beyond the Radar, your paranormal news program. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. You can also catch us streaming on the UPRN Facebook page and YouTube page, and, of course, my Beyond the Radar Facebook and YouTube page. And recently, we are now live on Roku TV. So hello, everyone watching from your television. We are on a channel. Look at us. Check out our archives there or subscribe to Beyond the Radar's podcast on Spotify for past shows. Today, we have a wonderful program of first for me in any sort of media. First for me, obviously on here. A real subject matter expert that will correct me when, not if, but when I'm wrong about everything that I propagate here to you about science. So it is incredibly, I'm incredibly honored to have someone. This is going to be so much fun. I would love to pick her brain. As you saw from the promo, we have, I believe, Dr. Tanya Rogers from NASA, and an innovator, all around good person, and somebody who we want to pick their brain. So again, we'll get to her in just a second, but first I want to tell everybody thank you so much for the love that I've received. Thank you so much for the people promoting my book, helping me shout out. Healer went on sale on Tuesday, and the support has been just amazing. I really do appreciate everybody from the bottom of my heart, guys. Thank you so much. You know, you really shouting me out, leaving positive reviews, things like that. You know, one of the most I guess intimate is the best word I can think of. One of the most intimate things you can do is share your personal work with somebody. For me, it's writing. As you guys know, the screenplays and the book and everything like that, producing shows and things, and obviously here, a lot of us don't get to do it, and a lot of us don't get to do it because of ourselves, not because somebody tells us no. We don't get to do it because we think someone's going to pop up on our comment thing right here and say you suck or go home or things like that, and the outpouring, is just something that makes me want to strive, do more, write another book, maybe a prequel to this one. But as someone who's went through and had some, mental health, psychology and all kinds of things like that, writing a book, a fiction book, by the way. So I want to clarify that a fiction book about that, allows me to go in different directions and tap into other areas. When you're a writer on a show, you have other people to bounce things off of, but when you're an author, it's you, and there is nobody else. So, I just, again, thank you for all of it. Thank you for the support, the love, the nice words, the reviews, what have you. It truly means a lot to me. So that's enough about me, guys. That's enough about me. I am going to play a little commercial. We'll get this out of the way because I don't want to have to break up anything. I'm going to start off with this little commercial, and then we will get to Tanya on the other side. So please wait, everyone, and I will be right back.
Four in 10 people believe in ghosts. Over a third of people believe intelligent life exists outside of Earth. 43% of you believe demons exist. we invite you to Beyond the Radar, your paranormal news show. If it's unexplained phenomena happening daily around the globe, we're talking about it. Exploring the unexplained, challenging the conventional, and diving deep into the shadows that lurk just beyond our perception. Come join the transmission on the United Public Radio Network. Once you come, you'll never be the same.
Meet Daniel Knight, a psychologist with an extraordinary gift to absorb and heal the deepest wounds of the mind. In the heart of a chilling investigation, every secret unraveled binds him closer to darkness. Delves into the psyche of a killer, his own demons emerge. Caught in a battle within and against an evil that seeks to exploit his powers, where the line between savior and victim blurs. Dare to heal the wounds of the mind. Healer. Read it today.
Do you want to reach millions with your product or service? Are you looking to connect with a diverse, intelligent, and engaged audience? Then look no further. Beyond the Radar radio show is your golden ticket to achieving just that. Our listeners are curious, open-minded, and always eager to learn. They value quality, authenticity, and innovation, just like your brand. With Beyond the Radar, your advertisement will be heard by millions of dedicated listeners. Our show covers a wide range of topics, attracting a diverse audience that could be your next loyal customers. So why wait? Take your brand to Beyond the Radar and into the hearts and minds of millions. Advertise with us. Let's explore the extraordinary together. Beyond the Radar radio show, where your brand meets a world of curious minds. Contact us today for advertising opportunities at www.beyondtheradarnews.com and fill out our contact form. We hope to talk to you soon.
Samantha survives a tragic accident thanks to Lucian, an enigmatic being. Her newfound abilities catch the attention of a secretive government agency. Drawn to Lucian despite the danger, Samantha is unaware of his true identity. She teams up with Lucian's brothers in a daring mission to rescue him. Accused unfairly, Lucian seeks refuge on his distant homeworld. Can Samantha prove Lucian's innocence and save their forbidden love? From the Sky by J.E. Nicasio. Available now. Get your copy on Amazon and BNN.
All right, everyone, welcome back. And before I get started, hello, Cindy. Very good to see you. Before I get started, also, our free text board, 484-283-5328. You'll be able to text, ask a question, give support to our wonderful guest, Dr. Tanya Rogers. And let me get into her background right here. Tanya Rogers began her education by completing her associate's degree at Houston Community College, earning a BS degree, or Bachelor of Science, not BS, sorry, in chemical engineering while attending Prairie View A&M University. Recently, Tanya received a PhD in chemical and biomolecular engineering from Rice University for her work on the development of nanocatalytic-enabled systems for treatment of anthropogenic water contaminants. Currently, Dr. Tanya Rogers is an energy systems director at NASA Johnson Space Center and is the proud CEO and co-founder of the People's CO2, a Houston-based startup company focused on citizen-powered carbon capture. So everyone, please welcome to the show, Tanya. Hello, Tanya. How are you?
Hey, that was quite the introduction.
Yes, well, it's all true, and we got to give power to the people because you did something that not many people have done. So, congrats to you on that. And with all of your advanced degrees and everything, and I won the geography bee in 5th grade, so I think we come here on even footing. So
you also did just publish your first book, which is quite the accomplishment. So you
I
are
appreciate that.
as well.
I definitely appreciate that. Thank you so much. And we have some good things to talk about because I'm fascinated in, I guess, both sides of you here. What your career. And then, being a co-founder and inventor, of this product. So I got questions for both things, but before we get into it, why don't you apart from the introduction, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing now and what's going on in your life?
It's a bit all over the place. I am a scientist by training. I think of the world in science. Everything comes down to molecules, the ones we can see, the ones we can't see. So I'm learning how to process the world outside of that. It's a bit scary when I have to dive into the entrepreneurial parts or admit to myself
Yes.
there are things that exist that aren't science. And so I'm kind of in this not identity crisis, but thought I had my life figured out and trying to step back and refigure all of that out right now.
That makes sense. I mean, that can certainly happen when you come from such a, focused degree. You know what I mean? It is, it's scientific. So you're so focused on this, that, and the other thing that, I mean, there's a reason why we have left and right sides of the brains and things like that. You know what I mean? So instead of thinking like a crisis, just think you're becoming more well-rounded. You know what I mean? If your circle has a triangle all the way to science, you're just evening out the other sides down all the way. You know what I mean? And that's all that you're really doing. And then you become a star. That's what I heard. So,
That is a very positive way of looking at it.
well, it's fine. And, if whatever happens, you have NASA's not a bad idea to fall back on. So it's always good there. Um, so one thing, let's get into, people might be asking or wondering why, maybe you don't have the paranormal background or anything that typically would be on this show. But I beg to differ because I'm going to get my soapbox here. Where I come from in the paranormal isn't the core belief system. Paranormal is a study. You can study certain things about it. I have said on this show many times, on all my other podcasts, on any other podcast I've been a guest on, we have to be more skeptical than the skeptics because we need to flush out the members of our thing that propagate on the street corner and claim everything is magic. It's not. There are some things you can study. There are vibrations. There are frequencies. There's declassified documents of things. These are, proof of things that have happened that people have studied. So that's my little spiel about paranormal and the science. And one of my questions to you is, have you ever studied anything that the outcome was a little scary? What you found wasn't what it should be?
All the time. Actually,
That's wonderful.
when you were giving your definition of the paranormal study, you could have replaced that with science. The science is
There we
all
go.
about the unknown and trying to discover the unknown and figure out what the heck is going on. And rarely is it what you're expecting. There are things we can see in this world. There are things, tools like microscopes can help us see. And then there's a huge part of science where we don't know what's going on and we make assumptions or we build these big machines to try to figure it out. And it's weird and mysterious, and there are forces and matter and mass particles that we're still trying to figure out. And I was actually I worked on a project. Do you know what the ghost particle is? Have you ever heard of the ghost particle?
Very not off the top of my head, but I have heard of it.
So you should go down this rabbit hole. But there are these
All about rabbit holes.
subatomic particles called neutrinos. They're actually the most common matter particle in the universe. I should say our known universe. There are trillions of neutrinos that move through our body at any given second. They're kind of like electrons, but they don't have a charge. They have a little bit of mass. They come from everything, even bananas. And I'm not making any of this up. This is known, proven science. And sometime around, I think the 1930s, there was this physicist, Wolfgang Pauli. That just sounds like a physicist name.
They always have the best names. They
really do. And I got stuck with Rogers, but I digress. That's because I'm not a physicist. I'm an engineer. That's why.
Fair enough.
So in the 30s, he was a physicist, and most physicists are brilliant mathematicians. And he was doing this equation, and the balance wasn't adding up. There was something where the energy on one side of the equation was supposed to be increasing. He saw that it was decreasing, and he came to the theory that there must be these invisible particles that are being emitted, these neutrinos, and they end up calling it the ghost particle because it's so elusive and you can't see it. And at the time, they couldn't detect it. So some really smart people started building all of these experiments back in the 30s using whatever rudimentary technology they had. And they weren't able to confirm that there is this ghost particle that exists. And scientists have been doing these experiments over the past 100 years now. And they're really hard to catch. They're tiny. They don't have a charge. They weigh next to nothing. So even though they're so small, you need these big thousands of feet long pieces of equipment to actually get a glimpse of them for a second of a second of a second, which is this wild ghost chase. But all that to say, I was working on a project, and I can't go into too many details on that, and the numbers weren't adding up, and we ended up concluding that it's because of this ghost particle, these neutrinos, interfering with our system, which was really cool to say. I got spooked by a ghost particle in my science.
Yeah. That's really cool to say, and everything, wow, ghost particle. So I've heard of it, I've heard of that, but I never had. So thank you for the definition of everything there. Yeah, it doesn't have a charge, so it doesn't do what you want it to do, but it can mess things up. It's like a cat. So no, I'm kidding, but no, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And you got stumped by that, and I guess not many people have had the chance to even view one, correct?
Yeah, I've never actually observed it. All of our stuff was theoretical. Very few people have detected this, but there's some great science literature on there about, they're kind of like ghost hunters, right? They put on these special equipment, they go and look in certain places, and they go to try to find these elusive particles.
It's there. It's giving measurables that you can see it's there.
Mm-hmm.
You can't find it. You have to use special tech to go see it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that sounds familiar. But no wonder they called it that, right? So in your line of, and this could be across the board, so high school, junior high, college, wherever. Tell me your favorite experiment that you've worked on.
Okay, this is going to sound really boring when I first say it, but just stick with me.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Anything to do with water. Water is the most underappreciated, fascinating, mysterious liquid on this planet. It does all sorts of cool things. When you freeze it, the way the hydrogen bonds arrange, no other liquid does that. There's this phenomena, anybody can do this at home. Take 2 cups of water, get one of those cups to be boiling hot, and put the same amount in each cup. And make the other cup just cold water. Just turn on the cold part of your faucet and put them in the freezer. And the hot water actually freezes solid to ice first before the cold water does. And scientists don't even fully understand why. No other liquid does that to our knowledge. So there's just all these weird phenomena that happen with water. And I get to play with water. We've played with water in space where it gets even more fun. If you take away gravity, it shape shifts and forms in weird ways. I love water. I need a bumper sticker that says "I love water." That's been my favorite thing.
Yeah, I mean, no, water. I mean, it's essential, to life and life everywhere. At least that we know. So, for us as humans, and we can't go 3 days without it. I think it's the 3 rule, right? With that and 3 weeks for food and whatever. But no, that's so cool. I had no idea that it forms in space differently. And real quick, have you been in zero gravity?
I actually have. Have you heard of something called the vomit comet?
The vomit comet? No, but I'm incredibly intrigued.
It lives up to its name. So there's this airplane, and they do science experiments on it, and it flies in these parabolic patterns. So you're going up really steeply, down really steeply, and you're experiencing, I think, 30 seconds of 0G. And so I flew on the vomit comet to do an experiment with water, actually. I got really sick on the flight up there. They actually, I don't want to say drug you up, but they give you something to deal with the motion sickness. And I'm a person, if I take Tylenol, it hits me hard. So once I recovered from getting over the vomit part of it, I got to be in 0G, which is a cool feeling. The weird part is when you're in different parts of this parabola, you're either in 0G or 2G, so you're twice your body weight and you can't move. You're being held down to the ground just by those gravitational forces. And that's not a comfortable feeling, not being able to move your body at all.
So it's the force is holding you down. You can't move your body, but then at other points you have zero gravity and you can, float and everything. All right. So the vast 98% of people have not been in that. What's something we wouldn't expect?
From zero gravity or just
being completely weightless, no gravity.
I'll go back to the way liquids behave. So part of that experiment, I had this cup. It's called the space cup. And the way astronauts drink in liquids in space currently, it kind of looks like, if you're familiar with a Capri Sun juice bag.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it's a closed pouch, the lid, and it's just to prevent things from floating around in the air. And there are these brilliant scientists and astronaut, Mark Weisel and Don Pettit, and they came up with a way for you to drink. I have one here. Drink in space using this open face cup, but it's got a special geometry. And so it kind of looks like an ice cream cone, and you put your lip to it. And when you drink something here on Earth, we naturally have a linear feedback system. We tilt our head back, right? And the liquid goes to the
That's true, yeah.
And so when I was drinking from this cup in zero gravity, I'm a trained human being, and so I put my head back. But you don't need that factor. And actually, the liquid went to the roof of my mouth, and I almost felt like I was this drowning sensation. It was not pleasant. So I had to, like a toddler, retrain myself how to drink and not act like a dumb earthling to figure it out.
Yeah. She's used to gravity. Come on. No.
Loser over here.
Yes, exactly. Well, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about today was humans in otherworldly conditions and things like that. Now, we know you need, so to be here, we have to have, oxygen, we have to have water, and we have to have food. If we were to take, and let's hypothetically, we're on another planet, same gravity, whatever. If we had an endless supply of food, water, and the air was breathable, would you be able to live on other planets, or is there more?
There's lots of factors. So water is the main one, right? Water, it assists us with our cellular function. It thermoregulates our body, right? It interacts with chemical reactions. It's a universal solvent, so it facilitates a lot of the atmospheric chemistry as well. But even if you just had food and water, there are a lot of places that have strong solar flares. There are places that have these strong wind gusts. There are magnetic fields. The atmospheric compositions are different. What is it? Mars and Venus is primarily carbon dioxide. And you go to places like Saturn where the atmosphere is made up with hydrogen. And so there's so many different factors on how we would exist as humans in other parts of the planet.
I see. So if we would almost essentially have to put, even if it looks friendly, right? Even if it looks beautiful and there's all these wonderful, cascading ranges and things like that, we would almost have to put like bubble domes or domes in there, you know what I mean, to make it exactly like Earth, because this is what has evolved us over the last, God knows how long. And yeah, so okay, that makes sense that we would have to have, and that would probably have to go up first, and that would have to probably take a while before it became human ready, correct?
Yeah, we'd have to build all these different habitats and life support systems and all these different functions to make it adaptable for our bodies. I will say what's cool to think about. So there are the planets in our solar system, but there are also these things called exoplanets. They're a little bit smaller, but they've got atmospheric compositions and things we think about in terms of planets. And there are a whole team of scientists that are trying to find Earth-like exoplanets. And so it's fun to think about, what if we find a planet that is as Earth-like as possible? And so you minimize the amount of additional work you have to do to make it livable.
That's true. Yeah, because I mean, and this is coming from my basic, college science course, right? the atmosphere on Venus would be a lot harder to do than something like Mars, or you know what I mean, something like that. Mercury, you can forget about it because we would all be really tan.
Yeah, and I'm a cool person and I can barely handle Earth, so I will stay away from Mercury.
I know. Maybe the planet's evolving us out of it. Who knows?
Yeah, there's some theory behind, if there are millions of years of evolution, and this gets kind of dark, you stick a bunch of humans in a place they're not meant to live, will evolution eventually make us livable in those places? There'd be a lot of sacrifices. I'm not sure what the answer is to that, but that is potentially one theory.
Yeah, and I believe, I don't mind saying it, but I believe technology is speeding up our evolution. I believe it's making us have to be smarter, faster than if we didn't have that technological boost. And the addition of AI, we could be in a symbiotic relationship where AI makes us better to make AI better, and then keep it going. But who knows where that could lead, and not to get all too far off a tangent. I was actually on this one show and they asked, could AI destroy us? And that's the theme, right? That's the topic people want to talk about. And I said, it's never going to be, in my opinion, it's never going to be Terminator. It's never going to be these robots with guns and things like that. I said, what you should be more scared of is the laziness factor, is the fact that people don't have to work as hard to get the same results. The fact that doctors won't have to manually do surgery anymore. Authors, writers, actors, they won't have to, create content anymore. And then when years down the road, when evolution has taken those skilled hands-on people out of it, and machines break and you need somebody to actually do some kind of surgery, they don't know how to do it anymore. I said, that's what you should be more scared about than this whole war thing. But let me turn right here quickly to our text board, because we got some texts come in. Hattie in North Carolina, you rock, girl. There you go.
You rock too, Patty.
Yeah. So I think you kind of answered Brian's question. Have you found any evidence of paranormal with ghost particles? And I don't believe that's the type of research you do. Oh, here's a good question for you. This is Charissa in Texas. The movie Interstellar used NASA as a sort of guidance for its visuals and was scientifically accurate. Have you seen a space movie where the science was just flat out wrong?
Oh, all the time. I try not to. Okay, so I try not to be the person that goes in and is like, this is all wrong, they didn't get it correct, and just disrupting everybody throughout the movie. But very rarely are space movies accurate. And the ones that are intentionally trying to be sci-fi, those 100% get a pass, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to,
Yeah, you should be as weird.
We have to suspend belief somewhat, right?
Oh, 100%. And you should daydream and be as out there as much as you can.
Yeah, there we go.
But the other ones where you're trying to represent actual space, those get under my skin. And I will say, though, if you've seen The Martian, I think by Andy Weir wrote the book. He actually...
Matt Damon movie.
Yeah, he wrote it a first time. And while he was writing it, he realized he didn't have the background, the subject matter expertise to make it correct. So he started this online blog and invited the scientific community to contribute to the book and correct him in the areas where he was wrong. So that movie actually is pretty accurate, but that's because he brought in this whole subset of people who had knowledge in those areas.
That's really interesting, and that's really good. As a writer, it's very hard to take criticism. You know what I mean? But he opened himself to it. And I wonder what those forums were like. I wonder if they were arguing with each other as well.
They had to have been. Scientists love to argue. I think that's a natural part of science, right? Here's my theory. Well, my theory is right. Your theory's wrong. And some of that comes from evidence, and some of that just comes from you've believed one thing for one way for 30 years. I call them scientist food fights. I think they're entertaining. I like to watch them like soap operas.
Yeah, it's a sort of not dirty laundry. It's like the clean laundry. You just watch them argue about their own type of thing, and they're not throwing anyone else's business out there or anything like that. But yeah, I'm sure I would look in on that. I would have a great time just reading that. And it's funny. Scientists are just like us normal people. They have a thought in their head and they don't want it to get it out. But so many things in science, depending on where you take your data from, can prove things and disprove things. And then also it's how you want to look at it. You know what I mean? I could go, here you go. The sky is blue. I could say that, and somebody's going to argue who's like, well, it's pretty dark right now. I've seen it when it's red. I've seen it when it's gray. And that in essence, I think, is a fascination with science, is because you can study these things, get different answers, but build a community around doing the work. And I think that's fascinating. I think, what you have there is really good, because it's the best and brightest that do it. And they should get a pass on to be able to say whatever they want, because they have the years of schooling behind it. Not everybody had it. If being a scientist would be easy, we all would be. You know what I mean? So definitely a lot of respect to you there. Let's go back over here. Okay, so we're going to get into a little alien talk right now. And this is your opinion, not asking anything else. Whether you believe or not, but if you don't and you had to pick, there's two main dividers, I should say. There's two main dividers in the paranormal community about extraterrestrial creatures. And now they're changing the name of non-human biologics, because some believe these are interdimensional, which it's on a different plane, and some believe they're from another planet. In your scientific opinion, what would make more sense to you?
Okay, so this is my opinion, not NASA's opinion.
Yeah.
I think it's absurd to believe humans are the only life form that exists at all. And the universe our known universe is gigantic, right? There are trillions of galaxies. So statistically, there has to be life form out there. I personally believe there are habitable planets that have life forms, and you can call them aliens, biologics. I don't know what the correct term is, that exist. And I don't think they're a function of what we know life to be here on planet Earth. I don't think it's necessary for water for them to survive. I don't think it's necessary for them to have an atmosphere full of oxygen. I think they are living just based on whatever the conditions were that they were given. And I think they've evolved to be intelligent beings like us. I think they've evolved to have technology. I think they have their entire own ecosystems, political systems, beliefs. I just don't know if that exists within our solar system or our galaxy, at least not with the data we found so far. But I am a firm believer that a galaxy somewhere within our known universe has these other life forms.
Very well put. I forget, a famous scientist, it might have been Einstein, I'm not sure, who said, we'd be foolish to believe that we are the only life in the universe. And the thing is there seems to be a fascination, especially, maybe not in the scientific community, but in ours with the word light speed. You know what I mean? We haven't achieved light speed. Light speed has many coincidences with things here on Earth and all of that. And to put in perspective, this is something we have not gotten yet, but if we got to light speed, there are things you still couldn't live through even if you went out there, because it could be 400 light years away. You know what I mean? And that's how many generations does that have to be for you to, even get out there? So, I totally agree. And how we are based as organisms on this planet, it's because this planet shaped and molded us to be what could survive here. And the reasons why we don't have any of the other things still on this planet is because they hit the end. They ran out. They weren't able, or maybe they weren't able to adapt. I don't know. But no, wonderful way to put it. I actually, and again, not a scientist, but to me, it would make more sense the interdimensional route, where they're traveling across dimensions using time, because being a higher dimensional being, they can look down on 4 to get to 3. We can do whatever we want with 2 and 1. We have it here. I'm looking at, you know what I mean, right now. But if you consider time the 4th dimension, we can't go up, and that's based on that. So that would be my throwing my 2 cents in there. but why not both? You know what I mean? You're right, because there could be planets, say, millions of light years away. And yes, we do have at least enough technology that we could check our own solar system and know there's probably nothing, here. But again, who's to say there isn't a third planet from a sun somewhere else that also, could be habitable and things like that. So I really, I appreciate that. We got another text in New Orleans. Do you have a ghost or a weird coincidence story? Maybe growing up, anything like that?
I do have one. I got two actually, but
Sure.
this one I remember more details. When I was a
Okay.
teenager, there's always ghost stories about the haunted house or just things in the neighborhood people talk about. There was this road, Greenhouse Road in Katy, Texas, and I remember it that vividly, where allegedly, if you drove down it at night and it was a dark road, I think it had maybe one street light surrounded by trees and there's a bridge, you would see this old woman standing by the bridge. And there are no houses around. There's no reason anybody would walk this road. The end and beginning don't take you to anything important. And I thought this was just some sort of neighborhood fairy tale. There was a night when I drove down and I swear I saw that woman and I refused to drive down that road ever again. There was no explanation. And when I looked back in my rearview mirror, she wasn't there. It was only during the moment when I drove past it. Yeah. And the fact that
you got the live view, not the rear view or a mirror view.
Yeah. And the fact that other people had seen it, and I was like, okay. And I drove, so I looked in my rearview mirror and I was trying to think to myself, are there tree reflections? Are there some reason this is happening? But none of that I could figure out at all.
Perfect. Now let me ask you something with that. Did you feel it like right here when you looked and you saw her? You kind of knew I'm looking at something I can't really explain.
I don't remember any other feeling other than just kind of my gut sinking, like
the feeling.
Being in disbelief, but more in disbelief that I was actually seeing it, because up to that point in time, I thought it was just some folklore. But I don't remember anything else happening with my body. It was just, oh my God, is this happening? Kind of a mental realization.
And that's what I have talked to many people who have ghost stories, and I'm not one to say I have, I have like two, you know what I mean? I'm not really, but it gives you a clearer mind to like look into the evidence. But, but the times that I talk to people, you knew that you were looking at something that wasn't right. And I don't mean like scary or weird, but it's that disbelief feeling. It's the feeling like, am I seeing what I really think I'm seeing? And that's the first thought that pops into your head along with the feeling. And in that, some have said that, your body itself knows what it's looking at. It knows it's not right. It knows it shouldn't be there, even if it's like in a norm. Now, what you were telling me is like, that's on the, it's out on the road and on a bridge and all of that. So yeah, I think, you probably, and the mirror reflection, you can't, I mean, that's really big. That's really big that you didn't see it in the rear view. So there you go, Tammy. There's your question.
Greenhouse Road.
What was that?
I said Greenhouse Road. That was my experience.
Greenhouse Road, Katy, Texas. Hey, if you're anyone listening near there, go ahead and send a text in or a comment here on our comment board. So let's talk about carbon capture paint.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, first of all, congrats. This is wonderful. This is something that could change humanity. You know what I mean? And I don't say that lightly. I truly mean that. You give the power of doing something to aid our planet in the hands of people rather than companies, governments, organizations, things like that. Tell me why you started this and how it actually came to be to now, to today.
Yeah, it's all a bit, I'm still trying to figure out how it got to what it is today. I
blur a little bit.
A little, yeah. I've worked on, so I work in the space industry. I've worked on environmental technology for space for about the past 10 years. I've always been interested in that world with how to keep humans alive those environmental factors, the ones that we know for human life, so air, clean water, food. And a couple years ago, I realized, I should maybe try to apply some of that knowledge to Earth, specifically when it comes to carbon dioxide in the air. And we can go back and forth on whether or not climate change is real. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But based on my personal beliefs, I wanted to do something about it. And anytime you have a new idea, you should look around and see what's already out there. Do your due diligence, do your research, see what's working, see what's not working, and where you can contribute. And I realized when it comes to carbon capture, so removing carbon dioxide from the air, I like to tell people, if I tell you to reach out in the air around you, you can't just grab onto a molecule of CO2 and see it, right? You can't directly remove it. So there are no technologies when it comes to us or your family or your neighbors to do something about that. And we realized, okay, that's our starting point. We really want to give everyone the power to make a difference there. Everybody the ability to do carbon capture and not just have it in the hands of the government and industry like where it currently is. And we knew we wanted to do that. And we banged our heads a little bit on what that was going to look like. And we came up with the idea to make a paint. Paint because it's easy. It's not the size of 10 refrigerators. I don't want to ask somebody to put another refrigerator inside of their house, right? None of us have enough space as is. It's cost effective. I'm not going to ask the everyday people to use something that costs them hundreds of dollars because none of us could barely afford groceries as is. And so we came up with the idea of this paint. And it's not like paint you'll find in a store, not yet. We're trying to get there. It's all non-toxic. You don't smell it. So when you paint the inside of your house, if you've ever noticed a strong smell, that's because it's got a lot of chemicals in it that off gas or vaporize into the air. We don't have any of that. All of the ingredients of the paint are unique formula. I built my own chemistry lab in my house to develop all of this.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
And I'd show it to you, but it's messy and chaotic, and it's every mad scientist cliche that you've probably ever heard. So
you got Frankenstein, and then the plasma ball and all of that.
there's a section of dead bugs that get electrocuted, which is a whole other conversation.
And you need this switch that's like ungodly huge that you're like, you know what I mean?
Neon lights flickering, the whole shit thing.
Yes, the neon lights. Yes.
But so we made this paint, and it has this special rock in it. Actually, I don't want to say special. It's the most abundant rock on planet Earth called olivine, and carbon dioxide naturally likes to stick to olivine. So we get that into a powder form. You can think of it as sawdust and mix it into our special paint. And that's it. The paint does all the science for you. You can put it on any surface. You don't see any changes. All the science happens at the microscopic levels, but we like to say, cleaning the air with paint, which is pretty cool.
That's so cool. So the fact, I didn't know, you know what I mean, that rocks can, you know what I mean, or CO2 will stick to the rocks. Because one of my questions was, after a while, doesn't it collect so much that the paint would fade or discolor, or is there a shelf life to the paint?
You are thinking like a scientist. These are all the questions I get from the science community. So the cool thing is you are correct. After a while, the rock becomes full of CO2. It doesn't remove.
I would imagine almost like a sponge.
Yeah, and if anybody ever tells you their technology works forever, you should automatically be skeptical, right? If I were telling you that, you should not believe me, first of all. Yeah. But it does keep, depending on where you live, keep capturing carbon dioxide for up to 3 to 5 years, which is pretty nice. And then after what happens after that, it's up to you. You can leave it. It doesn't have any faded visible changes, or you could put a fresh layer.
It's just not active, right?
Yeah, it's just not active anymore. And then you can just put a fresh layer over it, and then you have a whole new active layer of paint.
That was my next question was, would you be able just to repaint over it?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So it captures CO2. Now, I know, energy cannot be created nor destroyed, but this is a material, you know what I mean? It can change forms. what on the molecular level, how does it change?
It's all the molecular level. This rock, it's ionic. You can think of it as two different compounds bonded together without getting into the really nerdy science terms. And when CO2 comes in, it replaces one of those compounds. And it does a little bit of molecular rearrangement. So it actually starts as CO2, and then when all that geological chemistry happens, it turns into something that's not CO2. You can think of it as limestone, a carbonate material, and then it's just geologically locked in place forever. So even if, let's say, somebody scrapes that paint off or ends up in a landfill somewhere, it's not CO2 getting released back into the atmosphere, which is something we're very proud. It's stuck, and it's stuck in a non-toxic form.
Yeah, because it has changed chemically, so it's not CO2 anymore, right? It with the compound in the rock, it changes into something completely different, which is wonderful. So we convert oxygen into CO2. This rock converts CO2 into something else. It does not make it oxygen again.
It doesn't make it oxygen again. Yeah. Nope.
Okay. So, but it's holding it, right? And so I guess my question is, how is it then cleaning the air? You're removing it, and so you're aiding trees then, essentially?
You can think of it as a process similar to trees, where some people will say it's breathing in CO2. But the challenging part with anything that removes CO2 from the air is, what do you do after once you capture the CO2? A lot of technologies will try to turn it into something like oxygen or another useful byproduct, but that's actually a pretty energy intensive process, which requires more CO2 to do that. And so we try to steer away from that because we don't want to create more of the problem that we're trying to solve. And so this removes the CO2 and stores it in a way that's safe, not only safe, but also doesn't have a high carbon footprint. So it's not making the situation worse.
Okay, excellent. So so logically next, I'm thinking the immediate need would be for areas with a lot of humans, a lot of people, and a lot of businesses giving off CO2 or breathing out CO2. So, cities, right? Cities are a hub for that. How can this affect people not also in the cities? You know what I mean? Speak to like the small town aspect of it.
Yeah, and this gets a little political, unfortunately. So I have a tattoo, let's see, on my wrist. This is 350 ppm. That's the amount of CO2, measurable CO2, that was in the atmosphere the year I was born. I think we're up to close to 500 ppm now, and that's only however old I am, 36 years of existence. And that's CO2. There are pockets of the world where we have higher concentrations, like you just alluded to, these industrial areas, these big cities, but it doesn't discriminate. It's in the atmosphere everywhere. And the effect that it has on the planet globally, it's not just going to rain down on these pockets of high CO2 areas. When we have those tidal shifts or these effects on urban farms or the effects on just the overall air chemistry, that's going to be across the entire planet. That's not just going to be in these highly residential populated areas. So unfortunately, even if you don't live in these parts of the world that are big CO2 emitters, you're going to get the downstream effects of that.
Yeah, you're getting other people's breath.
Yeah.
That's the shame of it. Okay, so what would be next? I know you have a Kickstarter that's going on right now, and everybody listening, please, carbon capture paint from the people's CO2 on Kickstarter. Please go out and donate whatever you can, $1, $5, $10, whatever you can, to help Tanya out and to get this wonderful product out. So getting to your goal on Kickstarter, what does that kick off? What does that kickstart?
We have, I think, 72 hours left of the Kickstarter, which is a little scary to say out loud. Mm-hmm. So that's really the first step, is trying to meet our first goal of making that fully funded. Have you ever used Kickstarter? Are you familiar with how they operate?
I have not. No.
Yeah. So they are all or nothing. You set a financial goal. Yeah. You set a financial goal up front. And if you meet that, you get all the money people contributed. If the goal is not met, Kickstarter gives all the money back to the contributors. So you don't get anything else. So we're in the we're in the final stretch. We're not quite at our goal yet. So we're doing everything we can to get there. And it's a great opportunity to try the paint. You'll be one of the first ones in the world to get your hands on it. We have different options for you to get it through there. We're also doing a giveaway if you join the Kickstarter in the next 24 hours. I do artwork on the side, and so I've used this paint to make space theme artwork. And so we'll be doing a random giveaway to anybody who joins in the next 24 hours. So you'll get the paint, and then you can hang funky space stuff in your house that also cleans the air, which nobody else in the world could say. So or makes a really cool gift.
That's really cool. I didn't know you did. You offered that like that's going to be a wonderful gift. People will be able to do that. So, okay, so you reached that. What are you trying to do next?
Yeah, really, the name of our game. I know I said earlier I need a bumper sticker that says "I love water," but next to that, a bumper sticker that says "I love surface area," because the more surfaces we get this paint on, the larger of an impact we can have. And so, really, this Kickstarter is going to help us scale up and make enough paint to get the product out into the world, and then just mass marketing, mass reaching out to a lot of people as possible to get the paint in their hands. We also do a lot of giving paint to schools as a donation, so kids can use it and learn about just the environment. We collaborate with local artists. They do some really fun murals. We have conversations with Meow Wolf right now and talks, and so there's a lot of different areas to play with this and see where it goes. But the thing that matters the most to me is just making an impact and this making a difference. And the way we're going to be a part of that equation is if people try it out and just get this paint onto any surface they want.
Excellent. So if I were to ask, like, surface area wise, like, say you have a 10 by 10 room and you paint, that room, that's 100 square foot.
Mm-hmm.
Would that capture all the CO2, some of the CO2? How does that work?
Yeah, so that size room would use maybe a gallon of paint. I'm trying to do the
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So a gallon of paint is about 11 to 13 pounds. The really cool thing about this paint, and I know I'm biased here, I'm going to say everything's really cool, but it can hold up to half of its weight in CO2. So just by painting that room with your 1 gallon of paint, you'll be capturing 6 to 7 pounds of CO2 from the air, which is pretty significant.
Is there any feeling somebody might get from, how would they know it's working? Would they know a difference, I should say?
You can't physically see it. If you put it on something like a wall, it's a little challenging for you to quantify. But if you put it on a physical object, let's say you got a frame for a picture, a gardening pot, a wooden post, and you weigh that over time, over a couple of years, it'll actually get heavier. That weight will be heavier because it's capturing carbon dioxide from the air. So you can actually quantify it that way.
So that's where it's going into the mass of the object that you're painting.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. That sounds so cool. So, yes, everyone, again, please carbon capture paint from the People CO2 on Kickstarter. And at the end, Tanya, you'll give out your contact if anybody wants to get a hold of you for anything. But one thing I want to stress is I haven't done Kickstarter. I forgot. I did know that it was the all or nothing. But I've had friends who've reached success by not on their first attempt. Are you thinking if you don't get there, you'll go back up?
I don't know if we would do Kickstarter again, but we're definitely, if we don't make it, we're not going to let this stop what we're trying to do. So I think we would pause for a moment and figure out a new fundraising plan or a new way to get to our goals. But it would be unfortunate because this is something we've worked really hard for. And one of the cool things about Kickstarter is it's 100% people backed and people funded. So by going this route, we don't have to take any money from corporations or big oil companies or people that are potentially contributing to the problem, right? And so I think this is a pure way of doing it.
That's one of the questions I actually had written down was, we've heard of companies buying things and shelving them. And
Mhm.
that's something people, and especially the people that listen to this program, do not like that. So, please, let's get out there. Let's, donate whatever we can. But, you know, um, yeah, I guess the next route you would probably look for private investors and things like that that would just, I don't know, anything to keep away from the corporations because you don't want them to owe anybody. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like you don't want to owe anybody that way. And the private way, yeah, you might have to pay it back. It might be more of a loan, but you still retain everything. You know what I mean? But in terms of getting stuff out there, I've been a part of everything IT, digital marketing, all anything like that. Have you tried the Google Ads way, Facebook ads, TikTok ads, things like that?
We've been all over the internet.
Okay,
Yeah. So
gotcha.
I've explored different digital marketing routes. The challenging part is not getting the word out there, just getting the engagement back and finding the right audience that people are interested. And I know I think we live in the current age, there's so much stuff thrown at us all the time, right? We're,
Yeah.
we're constantly bombarded with buy this, buy that, buy ads. You should care about this. You should not care about that. And I think just things are starting to get lost in all that noise and figuring out how to weed through that and not being another person who's just telling you to get on board with my cause or buy my product. I haven't figured out the best way to navigate that yet.
Well, I think the best way is through you, is getting your personality out there. This is exactly why, I wanted to have you on. I want people to know not about the paint, but why you invented it, what's the story behind it, why you are doing this. And, you have a great message to tell and you have a great story to tell. And, you're going to be on my other show, coming up soon, Chasing Prophecy. So we'll be, back to talk about that one as well. But, um, I really want you to keep going, keep moving forward, and this is something again that could change the world. And everything uses paint. Everything
Yeah.
uses paint. You were so smart and your team was so smart by going that route rather than another industrial thing. It's almost like, well, you're fixing something with an eyesore almost. You know what I mean? And paint can be
Mhm.
any color, and it's everywhere, everywhere. So even if you can get, that process down, you know what I mean, and market that as well. We're here to help, and please stay, keep in touch with me. I want to, back you as much as I can, and what I can do to help. So please, don't forget about Tom.
No,
But
I appreciate that, Tom, and especially people who give us platforms to get the word out. I've also been telling people if you don't, well, I won't say don't care about the paint, but you're not interested in the paint, support us just for being a people-led movement because
yes,
we are very selective about where we take our financial contributions from, who we work with, how we're approaching this. This really is a grassroots built from the ground up, and I think that's hard to find these days
mhm.
when you're trying to tackle something this big. And I'll be transparent, it makes things harder for us because we are sticking by that. And so if anything, just help us out there for that reason.
No, you're so right, because in this day and age, if you were backed by somebody for other reasons, people would find that out. I mean,
Mhm.
there's everybody's an investigator anymore, so they would definitely find that out. But we have a couple minutes remaining. Tell everybody where they can find and promote. Go ahead.
We are splattered like paint all over the internet. So this
I
is
see what you
under,
did there.
yeah, it's the only clever line that I have. We
No, it's perfect.
our social media handles I think are called People's CO2. You can find Instagram is the one we're most active on, and then you can find me directly through there as well. Just send us a message. The Kickstarter is a great place just to find out more about the product itself, the paint itself, or message us through there. Yeah, I think that's where we mostly are at the moment.
Perfect. I sent you the links to share. Please comment below with the link, people. I'm going to have Tanya put the link below this show. So go ahead and comment the link, and then people can go and donate from there. Checking back real quick on the text board. Bet in California, you are amazing. Danny, Minnesota, keep going. I don't know if I read Hattie, but you rock, girl. Can't wait to buy this paint. Phil in Georgia. So there are many supporters that you have. And get out there. Yes, the links that I sent you, comment, Tanya, and then we will. People will have an area where they can go, and I'll retweet it everywhere. And check the momentum. That's one thing. If you get up into the point in the last 24 hours and the momentum's high, maybe it's worth taking to look. You know what I mean? And even maybe lower the number, and if you want 10,000, go for 5,000. That way you don't have to take so much from someplace else. I don't know, something like that. It's trial and error, like a lot of things in your field and in mine.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much, Tanya. I really appreciate everything. And that is all for today, everybody. We have been broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 in Gulf Point, Mississippi, and 107.7 in New Orleans. We've been also airing live on Roku TV. You can catch us there in the archives at Beyond the Radars podcast on Spotify for past shows. Thank you all for tuning in, commenting, texting, and we will see you all next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.